All right, I had a question on Discord about how to use Blender to alter or modify an STL file that you've downloaded before you prepare it for 3D printing in your slicer. So I'm in Blender right now. I just have a new file open, and I'm in the default view, which is your layout view. And all I'm going to do is go up to the File menu, Import STL, browse to my downloads to find the file that I downloaded, and import that in. And there it is. So what we have here is a crown. Sorry, I couldn't find the tiara that was specifically requested in Discord, but this is close enough. What we're going to do with this is remove these jewels from the outside of the crown so that we can print it without those diamond jewels sticking out of the outside. So a couple things as you get used to Blender. You can, in layout mode, click on an object to select it. If you click off of it, it'll deselect. You also have your object list over here in your scene collection by default. If you middle click your mouse, if you can, and then move your mouse back and forth, you'll spin the object, so you can look at the different views, different faces of the object. You can also hit the tilde key on your keyboard. Try to hit it just once here. Hit the tilde key. It'll pop up a way to get quickly jump to a specific view of the object. And if you shift middle click, you can pan the object around the screen to center it or move it around as needed. So again, middle click to orbit, shift middle click to pan, scroll wheel to zoom in and out, and then left click to select. When you do have the object selected, we want to get out of object mode and into edit mode. In object mode, we can add geometry to the scene. We can scale or rotate or do operations on geometry. In edit mode, we can alter the geometry of a specific object. And I'm going to stop talking about it and show it to you. I'm just going to hit, with the object selected, hit the tab key. We've jumped from what was object mode into edit mode. Obviously, you can switch the mode in this drop down as well. Either hit the tab key or select it up here. As you can see, the view of the object has changed. We are now looking at the mesh of vertices that create this object. Now, before we get started here, I'm going to go up to this menu, my overlays. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, overlays. Drop this down and turn on face orientation. This is really helpful, particularly when you're editing complex geometry and preparing for 3D printing. So with face orientation turned on, if you break the geometry by deleting a face that shouldn't be deleted, you're going to see red. Those red faces are the guts or the inside of your object, and you should not be able to see that. When you're done editing, you should not see any red. It's not a very technical explanation, but basically what you're doing is giving yourself a visual cue to see if you've broken the manifold of the 3D geometry, and it'll quickly show you how to fix it, where it needs to be fixed, not how to fix it, but where it needs to be fixed if it's broken. The other quick navigation that you can do is just with your number keys on your keyboard. Hitting 1 will put you in vertice edit mode, where every single vertice is represented as a dot, and so you can click and select individual vertices in your geometry. 2 you can also see the switching up here, is your line select mode or line edit mode. So you can select individual lines, and then 3 on your keyboard, or up here, the third option is face selection mode. We are going to be starting out in vertice mode. So I'm hitting 1 on my keyboard, and I'm simply going to show you that quite simply, all we need to do to remove these diamond jewels from this crown, so you can see each one of these jewels comes out to a point, and if that point were gone, if that point were not there, we would not see that jewel there. So it's tempting. We'll try this. I'm just going to hit delete on the keyboard, delete the vertice, and whew, it's gone. But we broke the geometry. You can see inside the object, and your slicer is not going to like that. So I'm going to undo, show you another trick here. On your toolbar on the left, you can select the move tool, and that's going to give you some arrows representing the XYZ axes of the scene, and I can move that vertice, not too far in, but I can move it in until it looks like it's about even with the rest of the lines, and there, it's kind of gone, right? Kind of. Like, all the vertices are still there. If I switch back to object mode, you'll see as it renders, there's a little bit of an anomaly because we haven't perfectly removed that flat jewel from the round face. So back into edit mode. The right way to do this is a little bit tedious. The way I would do this would be to, again, delete that vertice, and then I'm just rotating to look for the underlying geometry, the patterns behind that underlying geometry. And what I identify right away is that there is a line, a continuous line here, one right in the middle of the diamond, and then one here at the edge as well. So what I'm going to do in vertice edit mode, in mode 1 here, I'm going to hold down shift, and I'm going to click these 3 vertices, and I'm going to hit F on my keyboard, which fills a new face connecting those 3 vertices. Do the same thing over here. Now I have to select every vertice along the path, along the perimeter of the face that I'm creating. And you can see that the vertices and the lines for the diamond are still there, but it kind of doesn't matter. If I go back to object mode, as it renders, it's completely gone. It's not there. Your slicer is going to ignore those extra vertices and just give you a continuous wall up that outside. Now, this is a fairly simple geometric shape. You can see that each of these faces that create this crown are fairly repetitive, predictable. There are other ways that you can alter this geometry. The other mode that you could go into is sculpt mode, and I'm not as familiar with this, but I can show off what it does. And so sculpt mode, if you played around with Nomad or seen people using Nomad, this is going to look familiar. You're kind of getting the same palette of tools here that allow you to mold this object as if it were clay. So I'm just going to look at this and see, okay, we have a flatten tool here. Honestly, I'm just trying this. I'm going to see what it does. If I click on the flatten tool and then just come over here and click on the jewel, that kind of works as well. Now you can see it kind of ended up with that same artifacting that we did before. So I'm going to play around a little bit on this sculpting and see if I can find like a crease tool. This great multiplane kind of looks like maybe what I want. It's not doing what I want though. Anyways, you can simply do what I'm doing here and play around with these different tools to see what kind of results they give you. And again, if you were doing an art piece that were more sculpted in its base geometry and you didn't need to have perfectly flat, clean lines and planes, this might work really well. It's actually not bad. I'm using this trim, and it's altering the geometry a little bit, but you know, that would probably disappear in the slicer anyway. So that's another way to remove those objects from the artwork. What the heck, let's go back into object mode. I'll show you one more way that can be a little bit tedious. So I'm going to go to my right view here. So what I'm looking at here, what I'm realizing that this particular model gives me the opportunity to do this because the cylinder, basically a cylinder, it's straight sides. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is first, okay, bear with me here. First, I've got my object selected. I'm going to go up to this tiny little arrow up here and look at the location of this object. I want to make sure that I'm able to create, so I can see that it's 125 millimeters in diameter. So I'm going to create a new cylinder. Add cylinder tool. I'm going to click and drag. As I'm dragging, I'm going to hit the shift key, which is going to make sure that it's not an oval but actual circle. And I'm just, I know it's not lined up. I don't care at this point. So I click and drag to approximately the same size. We'll perfect this later. Let go of the mouse, and now I'm just moving the mouse up and down to kind of approximate the height. So what I'll do here is I'll set this to 125 by 125, which matches what we saw this would be. And then I want to move this to 0, 0. Okay, so this didn't import perfectly aligned, so now I can do a fun little trick here. On the crown, I can right click, set origin to geometry, and that's going to tell it that the center of the object is supposed to be at the center of the object. Now you can see that the XY isn't 0, 0 anymore, which is why they didn't line up. So 0. Now I'm just going to my crown and telling it to be 0, 0. So okay, now you can see they're lined up on each other. And all I'm going to do is take this new cylinder that I created, go over to my scale tool, and as you can see that little blue handle there, I just want to scale this until it's the same size as the crown. And you can get really tedious with this. Here's the fun part. Select my crown. I can do that in the scene collection. I can click on any part of the crown. And in the right menu here, I'm going to go to modifiers. This is going to allow me to click add modifier. I want to generate a Boolean. And from the crown, what I want this to do is think about which operator I can use here. Bear with me just a moment. I'm realizing that I want to create this cylinder in a way that it can encapsulate every part of the, basically we're going to delete everything that doesn't fit inside this cylinder. I'm just realizing that those jewels at the top need to be encapsulated in there as well. Probably not the easiest way. Well, let me just show you what it does. You would have to alter the geometry to fully encapsulate those jewels, but go to my crown. What I want to do is not an intersection. Maybe I do want intersection. Let's see. Yeah, intersection does it. So basically, the only geometry of the crown that we save is the geometry that intersects with that cylinder that we created. Now I can hide the cylinder, and you can see it's essentially shaved off the geometry that did not intersect with that cylinder. So again, that's the Boolean operator. I didn't do it perfectly, but if you want to modify an object, Booleans can be very powerful, a very powerful way to do that. So there, we've gone through three different ways you can alter the geometry of an STL in Blender. You can go into object mode and directly edit vertice by vertice until it's pixel perfect. You can go into sculpt mode and just kind of smash the vertices around with the different tools until it looks right, or you can go into Boolean mode and just brute force it into the box that you want it to exist in. So hope that helps.